Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Tuesday, January 25th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The murder of two journalists in front of their Tijuana homes in less than a week has shaken the journalism community on both sides of the border. As KPBS's Kitty Alvarado reports, the governor of Baja California says she will be taking action to investigate.
Vamos a hacer uso de toda la fuerza del Estado.
The governor of Baja California, Pilar de Ávila, took to social media to condemn the murders of reporters Lourdes Maldonado and Margarito Martinez, saying she will use the full power of the state to guarantee that justice prevails. With that end, a special prosecutor will be assigned to investigate their murders. Maldonado and Martinez were both shot outside of their homes. The Committee to Protect Journalists reports since 2018, 32 reporters have been killed and 15 are missing.
The situation is grave. It's part of the ongoing cycle of insecurity in Mexico.
Dr. John Sullivan is an expert in security and organized crime in Mexico. He says these murders are concerning.
This year in Mexico, there have been 3 murders of journalists or journalists and media workers together. Last year, for the entire year, there was 7. So we have an incredibly bloody month.
Sullivan says the appointment of a special prosecutor is a step in the right direction because 95% of those murders have gone unsolved.
Every time the state looks to shine the light of truth on crime and corruption, it helps limit crime and corruption.
Sullivan adds this appointment could trigger more violence.
Will there be a violent flashback? That's certainly possible. Does it place her at risk? That's also possible. But to allow the current situation to continue without any intervention would be perilous for the Mexican state.
Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
U.S. officials are hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst as Russian troops sit near the border with Ukraine. As Chris Nguyen reports, as many as 8,500 U.S. troops have been put on heightened alert for possible deployment.
With few signs of diplomatic progress, the U.S. is preparing for a potential Russian invasion of Ukraine that officials warn could be imminent.
There will be enormous consequences if he were to go in and invade.
As Russian troops mass on the Ukrainian border, up to 8,500 U.S. troops are now on heightened alert for a possible deployment to Eastern Europe, while NATO allies are sending jets and ships to the region.
We have no intention of putting American forces or NATO forces in Ukraine. But as I said, there are going to be serious economic consequences if he moves.
This as Russia announces new military exercises, sending more equipment to Belarus, including surface-to-air missile system units, blaming Washington's decision for the escalation, and continuing to demand security concessions from Ukraine and NATO.
The White House.
Ukraine's foreign minister responding in an exclusive CNN interview Tuesday.
If anyone makes a concession on Ukraine, behind Ukraine's back, first, we will not accept that.
Ukraine says Russia is trying to destabilize the country ahead of any planned military invasion. But the Kremlin denies it is planning to attack and argues that NATO support for Ukraine constitutes a growing threat on Russia's western flank.
If he were to move in with all those forces, it would be the largest invasion since World War II. It would change the world.
Chris Nguyen, KPBS News.
A sailor here in San Diego is fighting for his life after being diagnosed with COVID. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh says it is one of the worst cases currently for the Navy.
Ryan Denny is on life support in San Diego after testing positive for COVID-19 in late December. His wife Tammy says he deteriorated quickly. He's now in a medically induced coma.
I call it a tornado. I feel like the analogy of a tornado is pretty fitting. It just picks somebody off the, takes one house off the block and leaves the rest, and nobody knows why.
COVID-19 has plagued the Navy. The disease spreads rapidly in the close confines aboard ship. Though of the roughly 11,000 current cases among active duty sailors, only 5 are hospitalized. Denny is among the most serious. The 29-year-old avionics technician was stationed at Naval Base Coronado. He has a 2-year-old daughter.
As soon as he was placed on the ventilator, she had a really hard time. She would just ask me to call him, and I had to explain that we can't. And she's 2 years old, going on 20 though. She's smart. She understands now that she'll tell you, Daddy's at the doctor's, Daddy is sleeping, he's getting better.
The family was in the middle of transferring to an Air Force base in Oklahoma when this happened. Their furniture is already packed. Tammy is staying with family, commuting back to the hospital in San Diego from 100 miles away.
We just want prayers, and even if, this brings one more prayer, I know he would really appreciate it, and so would our family.
For the family of one sailor, the message is the pandemic is not over. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
Millions of California workers will soon be once again getting access to COVID-19 sick time. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman says labor groups are applauding the announcement, arguing workers won't have to choose between a paycheck and their health.
Governor Gavin Newsom says he's reached a deal with lawmakers to restore access to COVID-19 paid sick leave. Under the proposed framework, if a worker or family member they take care of tests positive, their employer is required to provide up to 2 weeks or 80 hours off.
They should not be in the situation of deciding, do I protect my health and stay home, or do I not get paid and put my family at risk? We don't want anyone in that situation.
San Diego County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher says the announcement is vital to mitigating COVID-19.
This has got to get done, and it's got to get done quickly. And the reality is a lot of people have already been harmed by not having this in place. This is not just good for the worker. If you're an employer, you ought not want people who have COVID coming to work because they'll spread it. And the fact that this even became a fight with employers is a little ridiculous.
COVID sick leave previously expired last September, and since then, local unions have been calling for it to be reinstated.
The public health research is clear. When workers have the option to isolate and not lose their earnings, transmission goes down.
The proposal still needs to make its way through the legislature. The sick time would apply to businesses with 26 or more employees. Meantime, there's also COVID-19 relief on the way for California homeowners.
This program will bring $1 billion to Californians who have fallen behind on their mortgage payments because of financial hardship caused by the pandemic.
Senator Alex Padilla says residents can now apply for the California Mortgage Relief Program. It aims to help as many as 40,000 households. In addition to proving a pandemic hardship, people will need to be at or below their county's median income. For a single household in San Diego, that's about $84,000. And for a family of 4, that would be around $121,000 or less. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Bicycle advocates have been calling on more safety on the Pershing Bikeway near Balboa Park, and they're now getting it. Construction started today on the $13.4 million sandbag project that will allow bicyclists to safely use the area as well as travel between North Park and downtown. The two-way bikeway will stretch for 2.3 miles and include a walking path for pedestrians.
No one is free to be able to say that this is not about protecting people's lives, which is exactly what this work is about.
Officials are asking the public to be aware of traffic control measures in the area of Pershing Drive during construction, which is set to be completed by 2024. Private security officers are starting patrols for the San Diego Metropolitan Transit System. The first officers with Intercon Security began on New Year's Day providing security services on trolleys, buses, and MTS properties. By the end of the month, MTS expects to have 190 officers ready to join its 80 code compliance inspectors. The Transit System's Board of Directors approved a $66 million contract with Intercon in July. The contract is for 3 years with an option to extend 2 more years. Some business owners along Chula Vista's 3rd Avenue say they're seeing more drunken behavior and increased crime over the past couple of years. KPBS Speak City Heights reporter Jacob Ayer says a newly formed group is looking for solutions.
A new group of South Bay business owners and regional leaders met for the second time in 3 months on Monday. Their goal, find solutions to what they say are growing safety problems along 3rd Avenue Business Corridor in Chula Vista. Chula Vista Brewing's Tim Parker says there have been more instances of broken windows, vandalism, and public intoxication over recent years. He's had his storefront smashed multiple times.
So you definitely need a bigger police presence. Where I think they need to be there more, not just after we call, but there already, to make the people uncomfortable to be on that block. That shouldn't be on the block.
Parker says some local businesses need to do a better job patrolling what's happening in and around their establishments. He also said some of the issues in the area stem from the growing homeless population, especially at nighttime.
I've been noticing myself a lot of more drug dealers has come to the block, but if you saturate the neighborhood with a bunch of homeless, of course, you know, a lot of times they're there because of the drug. So a savvy drug dealer will probably go to where they at to sell the drug.
Vogue Tavern owner Gonzalo Quintero says he sees the homeless population as less of a problem, but agrees that more security will help the busy corridor. In fact, he's on a committee with the 3rd Avenue Village Association that will be focusing on new safety programs beginning this spring.
We're looking in the future at providing closed-circuit television to patrol, to have, you know, an eye in the sky to help people patrol. We're looking at having, on the weekends and in the evenings, having private security.
Quintero says part of the plan could even include a new police substation nearby. The Chula Vista Police Department encourages members of the public to call and report crimes, as they say it will help them address the problem and assign more resources to the area. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Right now, there is a staffing crisis for preschools and child care centers, and they can't raise wages without raising the cost for families. In part 2 of her series, KPBS investigative reporter Claire Tregesser looks at potential solutions, which experts agree rely on government intervention.
So this is what we have to follow if they have close contact.
Lynn Twerk tries to make sense of the most recent guidance from San Diego County on what to do when there's a positive COVID case in one of her preschool classrooms. She sounds like someone stuck in one of those torturous hedge mazes in 16th century Europe.
Vaccinated or has had COVID, they would still be able to continue on working. That's not the case anymore.
It got so bad last week that she decided to close her center for a week. The staffing crisis is nothing new. It's been a struggle since the pandemic first hit 2 years ago. Beyond fear of COVID, low wages are the main culprit. Many providers can only offer staff close to minimum wage, and if they raised pay, they'd have to raise prices for families, which might mean families would leave. The result is a vicious cycle that keeps the industry in crisis. There are potential solutions on the horizon, but they won't happen without significant action by lawmakers in Washington, D.C. and Sacramento.
Build Back Better is a requirement to pay early care and education teachers, child care providers in general, at parity with the kindergarten teacher pay. So that would be an incredibly huge incentive to keep child care providers in the field.
Topping this list is President Joe Biden's massive Build Back Better plan. The $1.7 trillion proposal would offer universal and free preschool to all 3- and 4-year-olds and subsidies ensuring that families pay no more than 7% of their income on child care. It would also include a requirement that childcare and preschool staff be paid the same amount as kindergarten teachers.
If we're getting cash to be able to select the kind of care that best meets the needs of our family, that infuses more revenue into the child care system. It really changes the equation and builds the stability for the system.
However, it's highly unlikely that the bill will pass Congress in its current form, and a scaled-down version will probably not have many of these grand plans for early childhood. That means state and local leaders are also looking at solutions. One is a San Diego ballot measure targeted for 2024 that would help more families in San Diego County pay for childcare. Recently, voters in San Francisco approved a tax on commercial rents to fund childcare, and Portland, Oregon approved a measure to expand free preschool. McDougall says the San Diego measure could be similar.
And that money then goes to increase provider pay. That is what many communities use it for, is kind of bridging that gap between what a parent can pay and what it really costs to provide high quality care and have a living wage.
Another effort in San Diego County aims to help employers provide childcare on site. Say San Diego set up a childcare center at its offices for both the community and its employees. It charges rates on a sliding scale and has so far been a big success, says Nancy Gannon-Hornberger, the organization's CEO.
Their parents benefit. So whether they're teleworking or in person on the job, they can work without distraction or guilt. So they know their children are safe and also learning and thriving. And then employers can attract and retain talented parents of young children, by offering this very desirable benefit.
Say San Diego is currently working with local employers to set up childcare centers of their own. The important thing is that something happens. Otherwise, more parents, especially mothers, will leave the workforce.
In 10 years' time, if we're having these conversations and looking at the data and saying, why have we reverted to 1960s statistics about women in the workforce? It all comes down to access to quality, affordable childcare.
Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
As the pandemic continues, so does the mask debate in schools nationwide. Daryl Forges rounds up all the latest developments.
The high number of COVID-19 cases continues to impact many schools nationwide. In Michigan, Flint Community Schools announced last week they would continue remote learning until further notice. Some parents say it's an inconvenience they can't afford.
I have to be able to make a living so that I can pay for a roof over our heads, so I can pay for food. And if I can't have someone who can sit with the kids during their school hours, then I have to.
In Virginia, several parents are suing the governor who signed an executive order rescinding the mask mandate in public schools.
It's just the governor overreaching his authority.
The lawsuit alleges the governor's executive order is in direct conflict with an existing state law that says schools should follow CDC mitigation strategies to, quote, the maximum extent practicable.
We will use every resource within the governor's authority to explore what we can do and will do in order to make sure that parents' rights are protected.
In New York, despite the ruling from a state Supreme Court judge striking down New York State's mask mandate, the Education Department says schools must continue to mask up while the state appeals the ruling. At least 13 schools have already announced they will make mask wearing optional. I'm Daryl Forges reporting.
After a month online, in-person classes will be back in session on Monday at UCSD for nearly 43,000 students. In a message to students, the school says the viral levels in wastewater reported from the Point Loma treatment facility, declining case numbers, and proactive use of rapid antigen tests has reduced the need for isolation for returning students. The College Board is doing away with taking SAT exams on paper. It announced the standardized exam is being moved into an online format starting in 2024 for American students and 2023 for international students. Students will have to bring their own computer to take the exam, or they can borrow a loaner from the College Board. The digital format means the tests will be shorter by about an hour, down from 3 hours to 2. Another change, students will get their test results back sooner, within days instead of weeks with the paper format. Following Tonga's devastating volcanic eruption, the tsunami warning was the biggest worry for many people near our coast. But as KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne shows us, a group of local high school students worried more about the people of Tonga and have organized a donation drive.
The 4 Thompson siblings and students at Rancho Buena Vista High School are collecting relief supplies for the people of Tonga. The island nation was devastated after an underwater volcano erupted on January 15th.
After we heard about it, it was just heavy on all of our minds just because something so disastrous happened to such a small island.
12th grader Siona Thompson says the news hit closer to home for them because they have family in Tonga.
Our family was sending in videos of everything destroyed. It was heartbreaking. Like, it was hard to just sit here and just think about how our families out there just suffering.
With the help of their English teacher, the siblings quickly organized a donation drive. People can drop off donations at Rancho Buena Vista High School and Handel's Ice Cream in Carlsbad Village.
We're doing this until Thursday, and we're having a drop-off before and after school in the parking lot. And we're also having it at the Handel's in Carlsbad, and you can drop off donations right there.
Talia Thompson says the last donation opportunity will be Thursday before school. All donations will then be taken to a cargo ship in Long Beach for transportation to Tonga. The students are collecting cases of water, feminine hygiene products, medical supplies, masks, diapers, and non-perishable food items. Siona says if this drive is successful, they will organize a second one.
Oh, thank you so much. You're the best.
She says her and her siblings are happy to see the generosity of the community, no matter the distance.
I want people to take away that you can make a difference wherever you are. I always thought growing up I had to be older, I had to be adult to do something like this. But I think when the opportunity comes, you should take it.
Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
Our winds are going to be turning offshore here over the next couple of days, and that'll mean more in the way of sunshine, temperatures that are going to be on the rise, and the possibility of some stronger Santa Ana winds potentially late week. Keeping a close eye on that here moving forward. Tonight in the metro, temperatures get back down into the upper 40s under mainly clear skies. Elsewhere, we're looking at low 40s for you out towards Ramona, 41 in El Cajon, 40 degrees for you in Oceanside, and 43 out towards Borrego Springs. Wednesday's a nice, dry, pleasant day here. No complaints for us for the middle of the work week, and it looks like we're going to hold over that pattern through the remainder of the work week. For your Wednesday in Oceanside, temperatures getting into the upper 60s, 66 out towards San Diego, 72 in El Cajon, 68 for you in Borrego Springs. And again, Thursday, we rinse and we repeat. The ridge continues to take shape here, and that means more dry weather. And again, keeping an eye on that possibility of some stronger winds here potentially as we head into Thursday. But again, right now, it doesn't look all that impressive. Near the coast, temperatures go from the upper 60s into the low to mid 70s for you Friday, Saturday. Got to see a little bit of an increase in cloud cover there on Saturday, but otherwise we're looking at plenty of sunshine over the next couple of days. Further inland, temperatures low to mid 70s for you over the next couple of days. No real big changes here in the forecast. Again, Saturday, a little bit of added cloud cover possible. Otherwise, plenty of sunshine over the next couple of days. In the mountains, temperatures look to hover in the mid to upper 40s, closing in on that 50-degree mark for you Friday, but not quite getting there. Increase in cloud cover to start the weekend, but more in the way of sunshine to close it out on Sunday. And in the deserts, temperatures here go from the upper 60s on your Wednesday into the low 70s and eventually maybe even the upper 70s as we close out the weekend. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Jessica Pash.
It's been 5 years since the Chargers bolted to Los Angeles, and now 2 former San Diego attorneys are suing the NFL and its 32 team owners over the move. The lawsuit accuses the league of failing to negotiate in good faith over more than 10 years, while city officials work to find a new stadium for the San Diego Chargers or upgrade Qualcomm Stadium. It seeks unspecified damages and restitution paid to the city of San Diego. San Diego is topping the list for all-time highs for home prices. The S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller Home Price Index shows 19 other cities with all-time highs include Phoenix, Tampa, Miami, Las Vegas, and Dallas. Nationally, home prices rose 18.8% year over year in November, the 6th highest in 34 years. And that is down from 19.1% increase seen in October. The data is showing that the real estate market is still hot, and that will likely continue in 2022. And in today's Consumer Watch, Jen Campbell has a closer look at 3 trends experts are predicting for this year.
When it comes to the real estate market, realtors say 2022 is shaping up to be another competitive year.
When the springtime comes, we're going to see a bloodbath. Everyone is going to be looking to buy a home.
The median home price is nearly $350,000, up almost 17% from 2020, according to the National Association of Realtors. And the 30-year fixed rate loan is at 3.56%, back up to pre-pandemic levels. So, does this mean the American American dream of owning a home is even more out of reach this year?
Definitely a stressful and a fun time. I think kind of all bundled up into one. I mean, it's a big life decision.
Here are 3 trends buyers can expect this year. Number 1, home prices will go up. The good news is they won't climb as fast as last year. Number 2, mortgage rates will also rise. In just the last month, we've seen mortgage rates jump half a point. Rates are rising because the Federal Reserve has said it plans to raise interest rates.
I have a couple folks who were considering purchasing 6 months ago or 9 months ago who maybe are kicking themselves a little bit now since they didn't capitalize on the even lower interest rates.
And 3, inventory will grow. Experts project more homes could become available, but the number of buyers will also grow, and that means homes will continue to sell very fast.
I think when there's such limited supply and so many people that want to buy a house, even if interest rates go up, it's not going to affect home affordability.
For today's Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
How would you like to spend your vacation this year? Now is the time to start thinking about it because today is National Plan for Vacation Day. It's a reminder to take stock of your time off for the year and start booking it. Each year, American workers leave more than 600 million vacation days right there on the table. Experts say people who plan time off early take more extended vacations. And perhaps it's not so surprising that they're also happier with their jobs and their relationships and their health. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.